It is not uncommon for the Canadian work permit, study visa, and visitor visa applications to get declined. But in the recent 6 to 8 months, the number of these declined applications has gone up significantly high. So I started looking for answers, and I do have the answers for the reasons why these applications are declined. If your application has been declined and you want to reapply, you must watch this video till the end so that your application would have a higher chances of getting an approval. Hello, my name is Aman. I am a regulated Canadian immigration consultant. I'm based out of Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. And today I'm making this video for people who have applied to come to Canada as a temporary resident, meaning either a student, work permit basis, or on a visitor permit, and their applications has been declined. And many people, they have redid the application the second or the third times with the same results. So if you are in that situation and if you keep doing the application again and again, the results will still be the same. We started looking into the reasons why the refusal rate has gone up so high. So you have to understand that a lot of people want to come to Canada, and the number of applications being received by Ircc has gone up very, very high. And during the pandemic time in the last couple of years, the efficiency of Ircc has gone down really, really low. The reason is that they had to close many of their offices, and the Ircc officers have started working from their home, and there has been a huge backlog of applications. I believe there's about 1.8 million people who are waiting for their applications to be processed. So what Ircc decided to do a long time ago was to introduce something called an artificial intelligence software to help Ircc officers process these applications. As an immigrant myself and a regulated Canadian immigration consultant, I understand that Ircc definitely needed help, and that help must come in some form of an application or a software or some kind of an artificial intelligence. My problem is with the way Ircc decided to introduce that software and get Ircc officer to use it. So the software's name is Chinook, and Ircc has started using that for temporary resident applications for countries like India and China and some places in Africa where there is a huge volume of applications. So what this software really does is that it will club majority of the applications based on a similarity in multiple factors. For example, if your country of birth is same, if your purpose of visit is the same, if your financial situation is the same, and many other factors would club those applications together for being processed as a application to be approved or an application to be declined. So the Ircc officers who gets to use that software would get a bunch of applications where they would have at least maybe 2 to 6 minutes to review each application and make a decision based on the information provided by the software to them. The other problem is that Ircc has not been transparent about the use of this software and the rollout of that software to many different countries. And the way people and the RCICs and the immigration lawyers found out about this software is through applications for ATIP under the Privacy Act. So when somebody like me as an RCIC or an immigration lawyer had an application refused, so we asked the RCIC to provide the documentation of the officer, and then when there's documentation start coming back, there were very generic reasons written for refusals that has nothing to do with the actual applications. So many of those RCICs and immigration consultants have taken those applications to federal court, those refusal applications to federal court, and Ircc was forced to do a lot of settlements out of the court, wherein they said, yes, we acknowledge that we did the software and the immigration officer did not review the file properly, so now we are going to give it to somebody else to be reviewed, and those applications ended up getting accepted. I, as an RCIC, and would urge all other regulated consultants and immigration lawyers to actually take these applications where they know that the Chinook software has been used, bring more and more applications to the court so that we can force Ircc to be more transparent about the use of this software. The reason why I'm saying that is what is happening is that there is a document checklist provided by the Ircc for every application. But the way this software is pulling up the information for to be processed as either an approval application or a declined application is very different from the checklist requirement provided by the IRCC. So you can clearly see that you may feel that you have done a complete application by providing all the information according to the document checklist, but your application will be refused because that is probably not the information the software is filtering. And hence this is important for people to know about this software, and it's important for people to take the refusals to court where you have evidence that a software has been used to process your application. So that was one major reason majority of these applications from Southeast Asia, China and other African countries are getting a high refusal rate. And to help my clients and other RCICs and immigration consultants in an overall big pictures, I have asked IRCC to provide me with a manual of the Chinook software so I can understand it better and maybe make another video to help people understand what is the requirements of this software so you can provide better information in your applications to get the higher chances of approval. And I know that there are other immigration lawyers who have probably done the same, and they have made videos on YouTube regarding the same topic, saying that they did receive a very highly redirected manual which does not show them much information, but it's still a start, so at least understand how the software works. The better information we get as RCICs, the better information we are going to be able to provide to our clients and other RCIC and general public about the software so that you can make better applications and get higher approval rating chances. Okay, moving on away from the software, we know that it's being used and it's causing a high refusal rate. Many times your applications which you are submitting are being refused because you just submit an incomplete applications. You understand the checklist, you provide the documentation in the checklist, but there are underlying requirements for IRCC to process all applications. So if you are not providing the right documentation, your application is going to be refused. Very likely it happens that this is the first time you are actually dealing with Canadian immigration system, and you probably have watched many YouTube videos where they say that yeah, it's easy, you can do the application yourself, here is the information you need, and you do the application. And I don't blame you. Sometimes if your application is pretty straightforward and you do the application yourself, you can definitely get an approval. And I don't encourage people to just for every application go find an immigration consultant or an immigration lawyer and get the application done through them. If you are confident yourself, if you can find out the right information on canada.ca, you can get the right information on cic.gc.ca, and then do the application yourself. Do not trust anybody else's information from YouTube or anybody else, but get your own information from the two credible sources. And then I'm okay that yeah, you do the application yourself. But in a situation that this is the first time you're dealing with Canadian immigration, you're not really savvy enough to get that information yourself from canada.ca or cic.gc.ca, then I encourage you to reach out to a Canadian immigration consultant or an immigration lawyer. The reason is that once you do the application and provide whatever information to IRCC, that information is stored in their database. And if you, for God forsake, if you provide some wrong information, knowingly or unknowingly, that is going to hurt your Canadian immigration throughout. It may be a refusal on the visitor visa application right now, but when you do maybe moving forward, you eventually end up in Canada and now you're able to do your permanent residency application. Your misrepresentation in the previous application could end up resulting in a cancellation of your PR application. So it's very serious and you're not going to get too many chances to get that information corrected. So the only way to do it right is to either be very familiar with the requirements, with the information you need to submit, or get somebody who is doing it as professionally. And there are many good consultants out there. I definitely know there are bad consultants out there as well, but do your research, find out who you're comfortable working with. So make sure that if you are submitting an application, it needs to be completed and it needs to have the right information, so you're not getting blamed for misrepresentation and getting barred for Canadian immigration. The third main reason for rejection of these applications is the incorrect documentation submitted to IRCC. I'll give you an example. So you want to come to Canada and you want to work here for maybe 2 years, and there is a requirement that you want to show that you have enough funds to help you during the stay. And one of the ways to provide your funds is that, yeah, you have a bank account, you have maybe $20,000 in the bank account equivalent to whichever currency you have, and then you just go online on your bank statement and then just print it and upload it to IRCC. That is not the correct document to be provided as a proof of financial funds. So situations like that, when an IRCC officer is going to see your application, he has probably 2 minutes to approve or deny it. He's going to see that, yes, this is not the right documentation. I have to refuse the application, saying that I'm not convinced you have the financial resources to sustain your visit in Canada. Your application is declined. And the only option right now is that you are going to redo the application thinking that, hey, the officer probably forget to acknowledge that this document is there. I'm going to redo the application again, and I will highlight that I have this bank account and this much money. And long and behold, your second application is going to be declined again as well. So you have to understand, when there is a document required to support what you are saying, that there are certain requirements of how those documents need to be acquired and how those documents need to show specific information. In this specific situation, your online statement, a printout of the online statement, is not going to work. You actually have to go to your bank and ask them to give you a statement of your bank account that will have the bank information on it, your name, your account number, and the balance at the current period of time. So if you are just doing that versus providing them an online printout, you have a higher chances of getting your application approval. So in this video, we are not only going to speak about the reasons of refusals, we are also going to speak about what you can do to give you a higher chance of approval on these applications. So there are certain requirements of a visitor visa, study visa, or work permit applications which are very important to IRCC, and they want to see those requirements being fulfilled in the applications. And keep in mind, every officer would only have 2 to 6 minutes, so you have to make your information very clear to understand and precise. Do not submit essays and essays on your explanation of the visa applications. Try to make it within 2 to 3 pages where it's very easy to read. It's all in points, and if you are fulfilling the requirements, visa officer is not going to have a problem giving you the approvals. The first requirement is to explain the reason of visit. Maybe you're coming as a student or a worker or a visitor to have some leisure time in Canada. You have to explain that very clearly, that what is your reason for coming to Canada. For example, if you're coming to Canada as a student, you want to explain that why you chose Canada for your studies and why you choose that specific college or a course, and why you're not doing that exact same studies in your home country. You have to explain that in good 5 to 10 points very clearly, that, hey, I want to come to Canada for studying this specific course. This is not available in the universities here. Even if I apply to these universities, it's a very long list of people who want to get in, and it's not easy. And versus I applied to Canada because I understand that the Canadian education standards are much higher than whichever country you're from, and you are eligible to do the application. You applied to the college and you already received a letter of approval from the college. So things like that you have to explain very clearly to the IRCC officer. The second requirement is to establish the reason to return to your home country. The promise of a temporary resident permit is that after you complete your duration of the visa as a student, as a worker, or a visitor, you must be returning to your home country. And you are not in a position where you can call the IRCC officer saying, hey, give me the visa, I'm going to go back after the visa duration is complete. The only way for you to provide that information to the IRCC officer is through your applications. So when you're doing your application, you have to show that how integrated you are in the society where you live, how likely you are to go back to the same job, or maybe an upgraded job or an upgraded position in the society after you complete your study or your work permit in Canada. For example, if you want to come to Canada as a student, you can probably provide a situation where you can show that there are more jobs available in your home country when you complete this specific course. or there is a possible business you can run on your own after you acquire the education or the work experience from Canada. So things like that, you need to provide information and documents to support that you have a valid reason to go back to your home country after your visitor visa or study visa or work permit status has expired. The next requirement is to show that you have enough funds available in a specific way to cover the duration of your temporary visit in Canada. Let's take an example of a study permit. When you come to Canada as a student under the student direct stream, you must have paid the 1-year fees. You must have paid the $10,000 GIC account, and some people think that that is it. That's incorrect, because in this situation the IRCC wants to see that if it's a 2-year study permit, what are you going to do in the second year as well? So you as a student, obviously everybody is going to understand that you do not have a lot of money or income yourself, so you need somebody to sponsor your studies in Canada. So it same goes with the visitor visa or work permit as well. In a work permit, since you have a job, so you can get away with certain requirements of the financial requirements, because again you're coming to Canada with a job, you have a source of income. But in the other two visits, study visa or visitor visa, you need to show that you have enough funds, and that funds could be your own or somebody is sponsoring them. If somebody is sponsoring you for that visit, you need to get a letter stating that yes, they are going to sponsor you. Plus you need to show that they have the financial funds required for this visit. How do you show it? Is by providing property assessments, bank balance, and very likely the best thing we would like to do is to get a CA to do a complete net worth assessment and provide supporting documents for that net worth. And any applications we have done that way, we have never get a refusal on those applications based on the financial funds requirements. The next requirement is to show your ties to Canada, and that is always going to be a big case between ties to Canada and ties to home country. If you have very strong ties to Canada, the IRCC is going to see that as a problem, saying that yeah, you have too many ties to Canada and you're not likely to go back to your home country. For example, if you come to Canada as a student and you already have 2 of your brothers or sister already permanent residents or citizens of Canada, in that situation you have to explain to IRCC that hey, even though my brother or sister is in Canada, but I have my parents living in your home country and they need support, and I am the person who is willing to be that support for them. You have to get a letter written from your parents stating that yes, this is my son or daughter who wants to go to Canada for studies or work, and after they are done with their studies or work, they will be coming back to us because we are in this old age and we are not able to work anymore, so we need some support financially as well as physically. So last one we are going to talk about today is the travel history. It's always important for these temporary resident visas. We have seen many applications being declined because the IRCC said we're not convinced you leave the country because of the lack of your travel history. So that is a tricky situation, and it can be overcome in a couple of ways. One, if you want to come to Canada and you have certain number of years which you can utilize to build your travel history, you can definitely go do that. Probably booking a ticket or a vacation in a European country is definitely going to help you. The second thing you can do is you can explain to IRCC with a good letter saying that hey, I am not living in a part of the world where traveling to other countries is so common. My job, for example, you are a farmer, and a lot of farmers don't do too much traveling because they're definitely engaged with their farming business throughout the year, and the traveling they would do is basically probably from within the same country. So if you can establish that, if you can explain that yes, the traveling is not a lifestyle, and you can request IRCC to overlook the rule of the travel history for that specific case versus some other case, you can definitely get away with not having a travel history. And we have had applications which were approved for no travel history from certain countries where we explained that to the IRCC officers that definitely there are people who do not travel like other countries. Okay, to summarize this video, we have to understand that doing a visitor visa application, study visa application, or work permit application is not a sure shot approval, because there are many underlying requirements and there are many challenges put forward by IRCC in the way of those AI softwares, which there are lots of court cases going on right now, and one of them I believe is a very important case which could change the direction of how the software is going to be used and how transparent IRCC is going to have to be regarding it. The reason I cannot speak about that case is that it's actually in the court right now, in the federal court, and unless there is a decision, it's not really good to speak about that in public. Once there is a decision on the court, I would make a video on that as well, and we'll hopefully that if the decision come in the favor of the applicant, that is probably going to be one of the monumental case laws which is going to be used in many applications moving forward. Other than that, when you are doing these applications, you have to be very careful. You have to understand all the requirements which we just spoke about: reason for the visit, reason for the return to the home country, funds available for the stay, ties to Canada, ties to the home country, and travel history. If you can explain this in 2 or 3 pages in as your letter of explanation and provide documentation to prove all of that, it becomes really hard for IRCC to refuse that application. And even if they do, and you have provided the right information, you can take the case to the federal court, which you only have 15 days after you get the refusal letter. Once you take it to the federal court, it's very likely the judge is going to see that yes, you provided that information, IRCC officer probably overlooked it, or the software provided probably overlooked it and provided to the IRCC officer as a case to be refused. You very likely will get a leave on that case, which means that the court is going to tell IRCC that hey, re-review this application and give it to another officer and do not use the software on it. Read it properly and then provide an approval or a rejection on it. So if you have everything done correctly, all the documentation is provided, the second officer is going to give you an approval. It's very important for people to understand that, because IRCC right now is playing on the fact that a lot of people don't even go to the federal court for these applications, and if they give a refusal, many people just do the re-application with the same information and kept getting the same results. So it's important for people and immigration consultants to take these cases to court. RCICs cannot do that themselves, so in this situation we'll have to hire an immigration consultant. Only those people can take these cases to the court, and the more cases which will end up in front of the judges with incomplete processing of these applications and overlooking of the documentation provided, it is going to be important for everybody, so that the federal court would see that as a problem and make some kind of a decision which will avoid these problems from happening in the future. So I hope that you like the information I have provided in this video. If you do like it, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. You must share it with people, because I know, because I'm getting a lot of calls these days for refusals, and I know that a lot of people are looking for the exact same information. Share it with them. And having said all of that, thank you very much for watching, and stay safe, please.